If you're a writer, you probably have a lot of feelings about story structure and outlining. Big feelings. So many feelings. Some of you love 3-act structure, others say hero's journey is the best. Maybe you love Save the Cat. Some of you probably actually hate the idea of using any type of outline at all. You know who you are. You just want to pants your way through life, and that's great. I'm the same way. I have a whole lot of feelings about story structure. I actually wrote a whole book about story structure and outline. But let me tell you a secret that I've learned after helping thousands of writers write books and get published. The process that you use doesn't actually matter that much. What really matters is whether you write a great story. But how do you really know if your story is great? How do you know if it works at all? What makes a story work? I'm not just talking about what makes us love our favorite books and films. I'm talking about what makes us able to even get to the end. What are the basics of telling a story that your readers will actually read, that keeps them reading without thinking, what is this thing that this random writer wrote? I don't get it. Has that ever happened to you where you've written something and people say, I don't get it? Maybe it's just me. Here's the thing. Every story ever told has a set of patterns, okay? These patterns are called plot types. I've worked with thousands of writers. I found that knowing your plot type is one of the best, easiest, fastest ways to finish and revise stories that readers love. And when you understand the type of story you're trying to tell, it just simplifies the whole process. So that's what we're talking about in this video. How to understand the types of stories that are out there, what type you're trying to use, and how to use those to tell better stories that readers actually love. Sound good? So let's talk about plot types. Plot types aren't really outlines. Although they might help you outline, plot types are bigger than genre. They transcend genre, even though a lot of genres rely on plot types. Plot types are freeing. They allow you to do pretty much anything you want in your story, while also connecting you with your readers' expectations, with what your readers want, helping you deliver a great story. And most of all, plot types are a cheat sheet. They are the fastest way to make sure that you know how to tell a great story. So what are plot types? And to answer this question, I kind of want you to go back to the early days, right? All the way back to when our ancestors were telling stories around campfires. What was it about stories that were important even back then? Why do humans tell stories in the first place? Even back then, I believe that we would tell stories because we want something. For example, we might want to stay alive. Our ancestors would sit around these campfires and tell stories about how to survive attacks from ferocious beasts, lions and tigers and bears. And hearing those stories helped us survive, right? Or maybe we wanted love or belonging. We wanted to learn how to be part of a tribe or a community. So we tell stories about couples, how they met and fell in love, or tragedies so that you can learn what not to do. Or maybe what we wanted was to become the best possible versions of ourselves. And so we tell stories about people who have overcome adversity, who have grown and matured and become the great leaders of our cultures and our society. Or maybe we told stories about what it's like to transcend, to go beyond yourself and your circumstance and serve the good of all. And so we tell stories about heroism and sacrifice. You can kind of see these patterns already, right? Patterns that so many of our favorite stories follow, and that's because stories are about values. Stories are about the things humans want, whether that's love or money or power or survival or justice or transcendence. The values at the heart of our stories create the plot type. So that might sound kind of abstract, like what does that have to do with your writing and what you're trying to do with your stories? So let me show you. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are 6 primary values, 6 things that humans across cultures, across time, things that they want. These values are the secret to plot type and storytelling in general. So what are these values? Now, first is the value of physical needs. So food, shelter, water, you know what I'm talking about. Then there's the value of safety, safety from wolves or bears or from murderers, maybe even safety from rampaging psychotic chainsaw killers if you're a horror writer. Then there's the values of belonging, being part of a tribe, finding a mate, romance comedies, that sort of thing. Next is the value of esteem, about feeling good about yourself, like you're a winner. Then is the value of self-actualization, becoming the best possible version of yourself, reaching your full potential. And finally, there's the value of transcendence, which is all about going beyond yourself and serving the whole community, even the whole world. Now, to be clear, I didn't make any of this up. Maslow did, and Robert McKee and Sean Coyne from StoryGrid wrote about it, but it's super helpful for writers because where this becomes really important for storytelling is when you put these values in conflict. For example, physical needs, the value of physical needs are all about life versus death. Safety is about life versus a fate worse than death, because it's worse to get tortured and murdered than it is to die of natural causes. Belonging is about love versus hate. Esteem is about success versus failure. Self-actualization is about maturity versus immaturity. And finally, transcendence is about right versus wrong. Now, what's cool about this is that all of these values and value scales map to the 9 types of stories. And that's right, there are 9 types. Here's the thing, everyone says there are a different number of types of stories. Some people say there are 7, some people say 10, some people say 11. I say 9, and I think I'm right. But let's just take a look at these and you can decide for yourself, okay? Because all 9 of these types step directly from these values, okay? So adventure and action stories come from life versus death. The characters want to live, and the villains, maybe nature, maybe a dragon or an army of orcs, they all want them dead, all right? Then you have horror stories, which are about life versus a fate worse than death. The main character still wants to live, but there's a real chance that even a normal death might be better than whatever the creepy, scary monster has planned, right? Mystery and thriller stories are also kind of about life versus a fate worse than death. But the thing is that the death has usually already happened. There's a crime that's been committed. And the story is all about restoring justice and, at the same time, making sure the criminals don't kill more people while we figure out who did it. Love stories are kind of simple, right? They're about love versus hate. And by the way, love stories can be about 2 friends or one person's experience with love and belonging with their whole family or a community. Then there's performance or sports stories, which are all about success versus failure. You win the game or tournament or challenge and you're successful. You lose and, well, you're not. Next is coming of age stories, which are all about maturity versus immaturity. And whatever that looks like for the character and the story and the culture, maybe that means they're going to learn what selflessness is about, or standing up for themselves, or being just a little nicer. Coming of age stories can be about any age, by the way. And finally, there are temptation or morality stories, which are all about wanting to do the wrong thing, being tempted to do the wrong thing, and then whether or not you'll give in to that temptation and potentially be destroyed by it. And you could probably think of so many examples of each of these types just as I was talking about them, maybe even a few examples that you've written yourself. And we have a set of free cheat sheets that list some of our favorite examples of each of these. The link is in the description if you want to grab those cheat sheets. The cool thing is that we've been telling stories like this for thousands of years, right? And there are so many patterns that have developed that make these stories work. You don't even have to know these patterns, these plot types, to use them because they're so ingrained in our culture and in all of our stories. But if you want to learn how they work, the hidden secret patterns that are really not so secret because they're in all of our favorite stories. We'll be talking about each of these in future videos, so stay tuned for that. As I said, we have these great cheat sheets that will give you a head start so you can start using these patterns in your writing right away. You can find those linked in the description. Learning plot types and using them in your writing is the fastest way to make sure you write and revise a great story, a story that works, a story that readers will love. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think in the comments. And please, if you want to find out when we post new videos like our explorations of the individual plot types, make sure to hit subscribe, maybe even click that little bell so you get notified when our next videos come out. That helps our channel too, which we really appreciate. Until then, happy writing, and we'll see you soon.